So excited to be talking to Ryan Grimm, the DC bureau chief of the Intercept. And he has a new piece that he's probably going to have to update really quickly, really soon. The piece is
It's updated.
Oh, you did? All right. All right, great. So a recently updated piece, House progressives float diplomatic path towards ending war in Ukraine, get annihilated, quickly clarify.
That's been updated to withdraw.
Okay, withdraw. So walk us through what happened. Tell us about this letter. Tell us about their clarification, and then tell us what they did later with this letter.
So Monday morning, the Washington Post reported that 30 progressives had sent a letter to the White House, which they said called for a dramatic reversal of how Biden is approaching negotiations with Ukraine, and to the extent that it was dramatic, it was a suggestion that the U.S. should talk directly to Russia and work toward an end to this war. The letter also, bent over backwards to say that we agree that only Ukrainians can lead negotiations, that any resolution must be endorsed by Ukrainians. We can't force anything on Ukrainians. But then it would say, but as people who are responsible for appropriating money for this, as people who don't want to see a nuclear war, we suggest that maybe you ought to think about some type of diplomatic resolution at some point. No rush, before nuclear war, to this war, and that was the letter. So then, throughout the day, they're just getting utterly annihilated by the kind of like the resistance crowd. You had people also like Ruben Gallego criticize them publicly, who's probably going to run against Kirsten Sinema. Chris Murphy, on the Foreign Affairs Committee or Foreign Relations Committee over the Senate side, he came out and kind of obliquely, didn't quote tweet it, but criticized it. Said it's that's not the moral thing to do right now. Just keep waging that war. And by the evening, Jayapal put out a statement saying that what she called a clarification, that they're saying we're not saying that we're going to vote against war funding. Don't worry, we're fully supportive of Ukrainian war money. All we're saying is that maybe we should think about a way to potentially, at some point in the future, think about ending this war. Then today, this afternoon, a new statement came out from Jayapal, which looks to be, it says on behalf of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, but there's no evidence that kind of this was like a CPC vote. This seems like something that Jayapal did, saying that staff had sent an unvetted letter and that they were hereby withdrawing their letter. So big never mind. And she also said, I think I have it here, that the thing that they were really sad about is that people interpreted them as agreeing with Republicans. So they wrote, because of the timing, our message is being conflated by some as being equivalent to the recent statement by Republican leader McCarthy threatening an end to aid to Ukraine if Republicans take over. It's actually not what McCarthy said. He said, in the middle of a recession, people are not going to want to give Ukraine a blank check with no strings attached. Slightly different. The proximity of these statements created the unfortunate appearance that Democrats, who have strongly and unanimously supported and voted for every package of military, strategic, and economic assistance to the Ukrainian people, are somehow aligned with Republicans who seek to pull the plug on American support for President Zelensky and the Ukrainian forces. I just noticed this now, but pull the plug just gave me a flashback to cut and run. Do you remember that phrase? That Republicans during Bush era, whenever a Democrat would say anything that wasn't 100% supportive of everything Bush was doing in Iraq, he would say that y'all just want to cut and run.
Interesting.
So pull the plug is a new cut and run.
Yeah.
They say nothing could be further from the truth. Every war ends with diplomacy, and this one will too after Ukrainian victory. Okay. The letter sent yesterday, although restating that basic principle, has been conflated with GOP opposition to support for the Ukrainians' just defense of their national sovereignty. As such, it is a distraction at this time, and we withdraw the letter. So Mark Pocan yesterday said, this letter was drafted in July. I don't know why it was sent today. And if you look at the letter,
was he a signatory?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you look at the letter, there are a couple indications that it was written back in July. It says like the Russian recent capture of certain cities, which they captured around then, not now. And so yes, it was drafted around July, but then they started gathering signatures for it. Then there's a congressional recess, through August. Come back in September, gather some more signatures. Eventually get to 30, and you send the letter. So there, okay, like I guess you could say like maybe some offices didn't get a new heads up that like this letter that you signed to be sent to Biden is now being sent to Biden. But the reason you signed the letter is that it's going to be sent to Biden.
Right.
So I guess their argument would be, well, I agreed with it in July, but not now because we're close to an election and because Ukraine is kind of on the rampage.
Right.
So that's currently where the situation sits.
I no longer believe in diplomacy.